like I said, Parashara gives a lot of importance to the Charakarakas, and there are at least 1.5 chapters devoted to the Charakarakas. Now, the thing with Charakarakas is it's like I said, it's the con to derive the Charakarakas is very simple, but that is not the main task here. You know, the calculation of that is easy, which I'm not going to cover too much in this time, but I will go through it. But maybe at a later date, I will write down the presentation, write down a few points of how to derive it and things like that. And then then you can just read it, because the derivation is dead simple. It's not that's not the main issue. The main issue is looking at all the charakarikas and inferring things from there, and looking at it in the D9, the Navāṃśa chart. That is really the key, and that can lead to many confusions, because the thing is that we read the Navāṃśa chart from the Navāṃśa lagna, but we also see the Navāṃśa chart how the from the ATmakaraka, how it is placed, and so that it entails its own set of rules and things like that. Okay, so like I said, it's a vast topic, so we will continue forward. Now, just a little recap that if you recall that this is like the main points, that the Dharmamsha, which is also called the Navamsha, the planets in Lagna, and is something that comes very naturally to you. So, for example, if you have, remember, we spoke about moon in Lagna, or moon even in the fifth house from Navamsha Lagna. Like, I think one of the people, Mayur, I don't know, I think it was Mayur who put up the chart of the Nightingale of India, who is Lata Mangeshkar, and that's what she's been called. And for her from Navamsha Lagna, moon was in the fifth house. Now, obviously, she just from very early on, she went to a teacher to learn singing, and finally she managed to kind of be like one of the top singers, the reigning queen for the past god knows, like 40 years at least. So you see, so that is quite a talent. And so planets in Lagna, planets in fifth house from Navamsha Lagna, where you learn very early on, you know, those particular subjects denoted by that planet. Sun will definitely give you like instruments, musical instruments, writing, you know, abilities, leadership abilities. All of that will be very pronounced in the person. And fifth house is there's a distinction between the fifth house and the ninth house. Fifth house planets there from the Navamsha Lagna is something that is kind of you have studied from very early on. But the ninth house is you have to consciously go to the guru. Like the fifth house, it's like you're dropping in at school. So naturally, the gurus are there, you know, by default, they are there, you know. So, or there'll be some, you know, somebody in your family who is a great singer and who's encouraging you, you know, your uncle, your aunt, or even your mother or father. So naturally, those are your natural gurus who are already there and who are encouraging you. That's the planets in the fifth house. And in the ninth house, you have to actually go there. So you have to like formally go to like a university, or you know, those kind of institutions, to seek out that knowledge if you have planets there. So be very mindful, because if you are able to tap into through an agency or an external sort of institution for the planets there and the themes that they carry in your ninth house, then by all means it will be a success. You will be really good at it. So I would encourage you to really look at your charts, scrutinize it, and see what is going on, because that will really be very enriching experience for you guys. Okay, so now the house in which the native attains acclaim and prominence in life, where we have a lot of karma attached, is of course the second house from the Navāṃśa Lagna. And that sign, we take it into the Rashi chart, and we figure out, where it is in the Rashi chart. We did this exercise last time, so I'm just kind of recapping. Now, there's another nice dictum where the grahas in the Navamsha chart, if they are in dusthana, that is a sixth house, eighth house, or 12th house, then you have to see what those planets are signifying. That is, who are the karakas, what are the karakas, karakatwas, in the Rashi chart. So for example, if you have, let's say, Shani in the eighth house in the D9 chart, or if you have Shani in the 12th house, then if you look in where what planets are in the 6th, 8th, and 12th in the Rashi chart, then you will see that those will give you little bit of trouble. And the reasoning is very simple, because the Karaka in the Karaka from the Rashi chart in the D9 is badly placed, and that is why those planets will give you trouble. Okay, so did everybody understand that? So it's quite simple. Let's say if you have Mars in the 6th house in D9 chart, so Mars signifies, it's the Karaka for the 3rd house and the 6th house in the Rashi chart. Okay, so for example, if you have, let's say, Sun in the, let's say you have Sun in the 3rd house, then father figures, institutions, government stuff is going to give you problems. Yeah, you'll have to work harder at it, because the Karaka in the D9 is not very well placed for that house, okay, in which your planets are. Is everybody clear on that? Because this is a really important concept, and as we go along, we will see more and more examples, and I would encourage you to put up more and more examples in the Telegram group, because that will make it very, very easy, even though you may not focus on it too much. Yes, Ingrid, somebody wants to say something? No. Okay, lovely. So now we go, I want to just skim over this, because this is not like super we have other important things to do, but just as we looked at the 1st house, the 5th house, and the 9th house in Karakamsha, from the Navāṃśa, sorry, it's like getting confusing now. We similarly look at the 3rd house, 7th house, and 11th house, and again they depict similar things. The 3rd house is where we need skills and training. If you have a benefic in the 3rd, you may be a little bit timid, but you may acquire skills. Or even, like, let's say in the 3rd house from your Navāṃśa Lagna, let's say you have Moon or Venus. So every time you step out of the house, then carry an object like a little bottle of water, or before stepping out, have a nice big glass of clean water, and or a nice lemon drink, because lemon juice or something, because Venus rules sour taste. And so if you have Venus there, so that means it's kind of like you're activating that Venus, and it acts as a protective element for you, provided you have a Venus in the 3rd house from your Navāṃśa Lagna. Okay, so similarly you can do with other planets too. If you have Mercury there, carry a nice little book, or a spiritual book, or a Puran, or a something small, yeah, and in your handbag or something. So now a father-in-law benefits here. Father-in-law will be supportive. So this is a mistypo. Benefics here. and the father-in-law is supportive. Now the father-in-law is shown by the third house in the Navāṃśa. Now we will do another session just on relationships, because we haven't reached that point yet. And I know, I mean, like I said, there are many things we see from the D9 chart. And I've left the relationships for the last, the first marriage, second marriage, how we see it, the third marriage, and so on and so forth. Typically, flings and love affairs, unless you're like living in long term with somebody, they won't show up in your D9 chart. If it is like a crush you've had, or a love affair, or and then it kind of fizzled out, it will not show up in the D9. We have to use other arud, significators like A3 and all that in the Rashi chart to figure out about love and crushes and that kind of thing, or A7, those kind of things we will have to use, but it will not show up in the D9. In D9, only long term relationship which has lasted perhaps for more than a year, where you have actively lived in with somebody, and that will show up in the D9 chart. So let's be very clear on that, okay? And let's move forward. Now, again, the second house, sixth house, and the 10th house show, again, it's a trilogy. It's the earth trilogy, the earth trines, okay? The second house, remember what I told you at the beginning, second house is where we have the karma, where we have huge amount of karma from, because this sign, second from the Navāṃśa Lagna, we are going to take it in the Rashi chart and figure out what is happening in that house, what are the planets there, who's the lord of that, and what is going on. Because our focus for this lifetime is going to be on that house and that Rashi, okay, that sign. Now, the second house is something that comes naturally to us. It's kind of like a Saraswati blessing. If your benefics there is fantastic, that means it's something that is like coming very skillfully to you. You already have a skill there, but it also, malefics here is not welcome. Please note, I think we went through this exercise where if you have heavy duty malefics, we did Oprah Winfrey's chart, then often it shows very early abusive situations and things like that. Do people recall that? Yeah, remember I said that. Yeah, like yeah, I can hear Margarita shaking her head. Yeah, so yeah, it's a troublesome. Yeah, so that is a problem. Um, Now the sixth house in again shows what we will have to learn and acquire training for that particular, if your planet's there for that particular theme or subject, okay? That particular, and it is also creator of wealth, like the 10th house is the creator of wealth, but the sixth house is where we will acquire the required skills. That is provided you have planets there, where we are kind of like going into like coaching and training of corporates and things like that. So is everybody okay with this?
Yes, sure. Okay.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to revisit Marie Curie's chart, because what we are going to do next is quite relevant here. I'm going to first introduce that, as you all know, that Surya, or the sun, is the keeper of time. He is the Martanda, as he occupies the inanimate and animate globe. He is the Hiranyagarbha, that is where that golden egg from which everything was created, and he was born from there. And by his course all the worlds get divided. He is obviously the ultimate timekeeper of the universe, and he is the controller of the seasons, animate, inanimate objects. The movement, his movement is among the rashis or the signs in the sky, and that is how we get the all the zodiac signs, and he traverses through Mesha, Tula, that is Aries and Tula, and all the way to Meena, Pisces. He makes days and nights of equal length. He moves with Meru. Meru is like one of the great mountains, and Dhruva is a pole star on his right and marches towards the signs of the zodiac. So the 12 signs are got by him. We already know that. We did the Adityas, and we know that the seasons are given by him, and the Ritus, which is nothing but the seasons, and as well as his heavenly path, the Uttarayana and the Dakshinayana, right? The southerly and the northerly direction of the sun's course. Now, I'm going to here we see that now just I'm going to talk a little bit about the days of the week and the seven horses of the sun, and how the sun is always depicted in all Puranic and Vedic cosmology. The sun is always depicted by the seven horses, yeah. And the sun was born to Rishi Kashyap by his wife Aditi. Now it is said, some Puranas say it is Mahavishnu who begot Brahma, and eventually Brahma gave birth to Marichi and Prajapati. So basically, Brahma did not, Mahavishnu wanted to create the universe, but he designated Brahma, and Brahma eventually did not do the task because it's like manufacturing worldwide of a billion souls. So he entrusted the whole task to Prajapati, and Kashyap was born from Marichi. So Rishi Kashyap was born from Marichi, is one of the ancient Sapta Rishis, that is the seven great sages, and several sons were born to Kashyapa by Aditi and the daughter of King Daksha. Now, obviously, the Adityas, the Vasus, the Rudras, they were all the siblings of each other. They were siblings of Rishi, sorry, they were siblings, and they were the sons and daughters of Kashyap and with wife Aditi. Now, again, at some point in the future, we will revisit Aditi, who is associated, who's the deity for Punarvasu. Anybody familiar with the nakshatras? The Aditi is like the mother goddess. She's the mother of all the gods, and she's associated with the nakshatra of Punarvasu. And so, at some later point at the lodge, we will be doing the nakshatras and and the deities. So you're welcome to join. This is in end of May and in June. So and we'll be doing the nakshatra trees as well. So that is very relevant. So this is the same Aditi who is the wife of Kashyap. Now, in the according to the Agni Puran, the 12 Adityas are all of these. Now, we've already done the Adityas and we've done the mantras for that too. But I'm not going to revisit that again. But different Puranas have like a little different twist to the same Dwadasha Adityas, and here you can see a different list. Now, Surya also has a few wives: Sanjana, Chaya, Ikshubha, and Rajni. Now, out of these, Sanjana and Chaya are the most known ones. Earlier, if you go through some of the myth of the Surya and Shani, and you will see I have spoken at length about the tussle between Chaya, Sanjana, the Yama, the god of death, and Shani. So these are his sons as well. Shraddha Deva is another name for Shani Dev, which is nothing but Saturn. Okay. So now his seven horses depict literally the 7 days of the week. They also depict the seven chandas or the meters, which are by which all the Sanskrit is delivered through the Sanskrit language. All the Vedas and the Rig Vedas to all the four Vedas are delivered in various chandas. all the mantras are there. Like, for example, remember we did the Gayatri mantra, which is nothing but the 24 syllable, which is the Gayatri Chanda. So essentially, the Chanda is Gayatri. Then we have Ushnik, Anushtup, the Mrutyunjay mantra is Anushtup. So there are many sort of many millions of mantras of under various syllables, and they are all classified according to these. Okay. Now what we want to know is that sun is also associated with shrishti, which is the creation, and the sthiti, which is maintaining the whole universe, and pralay, which is like the ultimate destruction, the ultimate destruction, which is done many times at every yuga. At every yuga is like, mahayuga are like big periods of time, and yuga are like slightly smaller periods of time. So at every mahayuga there is a huge pralay that happens, and then again the whole cycle of shrishti and sthiti begin again. And this is nothing but the triptych or the Trimurti, the Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara, which is also another dimension of time, which is nothing but the sun. Because when we are talking about time, we are literally talking about the sun. Bear in mind that ultimately, according to Saurya Puran, which is a purely Shaivite work, it talks about that the practices of Saurya sex identifies Lord Shiva with the sun. Now, again, if you go through some of the Puranas and all that, you will find multiple references of the sun being synonymous with Lord Shiva. And then you may well ask, well, then how does a Trimurti work? But again, for the sake of creation on earth and manifestation on earth, we have to take into account the Trimurti. Okay. And so again, he's known by several names: Triguna, Hamsa. You may have heard people who study Vedas or the Vedantic philosophy may have heard Hamsa, and Shiva, Hari is another name for Vishnu, which is also synonymous with the sun, Brahma, Paramatma, Omkar, Vasatkar, and the cause of the origin of the universe. So these are the various eulogies used for the sun by Manu, who was the first human. Now, you may well ask, well, why is she going on about all this? Because I want you to understand that through the sun is intricately linked with Hora and Jyotish. Sorry. Hang on. I think I've. Any questions so far?
Yes. When will the next pralaya be?
Okay, this is a little bit off. We are going off piste here. I have no idea.
Okay.
We are in the Kali Yuga. That is all I know. But we will, I mean, we can do a little class. I can prepare on the yugas and the various sort of, of the distinction between like 5-year periods is also a yuga. And then we have like another set of periods which are like the big chunks of time, which is like Kali Yuga and Treta Yuga and the Satya Yuga and all. So these are like huge chunks of time. I don't know the answer to what you're asking, to be honest. They say that at the end of Kali Yuga everything will be destroyed. Different scholars have a different take on how many years are left in the Kali Yuga. But I can put it forward, after researching about how many, what different scholars say and things like that. But it is something to be explored. But by all means, feel free. There are a lot of texts on Indian astronomy. Which will give you in detail about the various yugas and what yuga we are in. So feel free to, research further. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Now, Manu expresses, so these are the various forms of Ambika, Pati, Ishana. Now, remember we did the Rudra. Ishana is like one of the directions for the sun, and he rules. So he's that form. Ambika Pati is literally means the husband of Ambika, so which is another form of Durga. So again, like I said, these are sort of many views of looking at the sun, but the one thing remains is that the reason that we are, I think my slides have got mixed up a little bit. Sorry guys, give me a moment, I will come back to this. Yes, now here we are. Sorry, my slides got a little bit jumbled up. So, when we talk about the sun, obviously he's the keeper of time, but that is from sunrise to sunrise, literally. But when the sun disappears, it is we are pitched into darkness, right? And then that's when the moon kicks in. That is the energy of Rudra, that is the energy of Tamas, the dark forces, the ignorance, and hence. If we say that the sun is the keeper of time, Kala, then the Mahakal is to be obviously naturally denoted by what happens in the night. Okay, so between these two, Mahakal and Kal, we get the entire timekeeping and the whole concept of time. And you may well say, what is the point of all this time? But the time is relevant to human beings because time is instrumental in understanding what karmas, why we are here, and what karmas do we have to work out this lifetime. So inextricably Kaal, which is nothing but time, is linked with all our karmas, and that is why we are here. So, that is like the fundamental thing. Here we see in this picture the Ashtamurti Shiva, which is the 8 limbs of time, the 8 ways of viewing Shiva. So, those of you who have kind of forgotten, or I'm just going to bring in this little rajas sattva guna and the tamas concept, the guna concept. We know that the our whole manifestation on this planet is through gunas and pancha mahabhutas, which is nothing but the great elements, 5 great elements. And how we don't just fall into drop into from heavens, drop into the earth. We go through this process of when the white light splits up. It's like akin to throwing a white light through a prism, and then it splits up into all the colors of the rainbow, which is the vibgor. And eventually that's how we manifest, and each of these colors are nothing but our soul colors, that the karmic colors of our millions and millions of lifetimes that we have lived and that we have to progress upon. And so all of these colors ultimately are mapped to the gunas, which are eventually is nothing but mapped to the planets, which is grahas. And remember, the sun is the timekeeper, he's the Mahakal, he is the Kaal. So ultimately all the planets, all the navagrahas or the 9 planets is nothing but the play of Surya. It's his way of keeping time. And when we talk about time, we have to talk about manifestation of human beings. And when we talk of manifestation, we have to talk about the elements and the gunas, right? So the gunas, Rajas is always Mercury and Venus. We have known that. And Sattva guna is only 3 key grahas, the luminaries, the sun, the moon, and Jupiter, and out of which the moon is Jalatattva, the sun is the source of fire, and of course, which is Agni, and Jupiter is a source of the divine ether, that is the divine element. And of course, the Tamas Graha is Mars, Ketu. Now, Ketu here is a little bit of an exception because Ketu can be on if you're on a great spiritual path, if you are like a yogi, you've given up everything, you are Ketu. That means you are on a path to liberation. Then Ketu becomes one of the most benefic. But if you want to live in this world and are ambitious of some kind of material and financial gains, then Ketu can act as a malefic. And similarly, Saturn and Rahu, of course, are air element. Vayu Tattva is very, very strong. That's a very strong tamas energy. It's the energy of Rudra Shiva. It has to be managed. We need planets. The Sattva can fight the tamas. Absolutely. And the Rajas can fight also the Sattva. So, sorry, the other way around. So the Rajas, so for example, if you have like combusted planet of, let's say, Mercury combusted with the sun, or Venus combusted, then all the negativity, all the greediness of Mercury, because remember, Mercury is the Kuber. Remember we did some time ago where Mercury becomes, it's like the earth element. It wants money, money, money. It's the deity for the Dikpal Devata for Mercury is Kuber. So Kuber is like we are enslaved to Kuber. Kuber is nothing but the god of wealth. We are completely at his mercy. There is no man who's ever happy. Even the multi-billionaire Bill Gates wants more. He wants more power, more something. There's always something more that he would want, and the poor man also wants more, wants more of what he absolutely doesn't have. So invariably, wealth is an biggest enslaver, which is nothing but Mercury. And so who can destroy the greed and the wealth seeking insatiable thirst of Mercury? And that is only the Sattva grahas, especially the sun. If it gets combusted, Mercury gets combusted with the sun, 100% it's burnt up. Okay, so these are very important concepts you have to understand. So don't panic if you have like Mercury in combustion with the sun. I think it's quite a good thing this lifetime. It's basically saying, hey, you need to kind of go easy on being covetous in your nature and put a limitation to it. Okay, so coming back to the Ashtamurti Shiva. So how is this connected to the planets? Now, we know the Ashtamurti Shiva is basically nothing but the pure white consciousness which splits up. And these are the various forms of Shiva. Ashta literally means 8 forms of manifestations of Lord Shiva. And of course, these 8 are mapped into the various elements and the sun, the moon, and of course the self, that is you, yourself, the deep. And each of the grahas, which are nothing but under the control of the sun, is mapped again to these elements. And each of these manifestations of Shiva are associated with the planets. These also, by the way, they can, for example, if you're born on a Friday, then you're ruled by Venus. Your Agni, that is your source of fire, is Venus. So if you are able to do the mantra or appease Lord Shiva in the form of bhava, then that will give you very good benefits in terms of sustenance and things like that. Okay, similarly, if you're born on a Tuesday, which is people who are born on Tuesdays generally by and large struggle quite a lot. So they are born on a Tuesday which is ruled by Mars, Mangal, and so Hom Rudrai Namaha is a very good mantra for them because they it dispels their sorrows and their struggles and their hardships. Okay, so that is how we look at the Ashta Murti Shiva and how it is mapped to the seven days of the week and the seven planets including Rahu. And now, not including Rahu. And Ketu is out of the scheme because Ketu is a Moksha Karaka. Ketu will never, he's his job, he doesn't desire anything. Ketu just wants liberation. I mean, it's even if you may say that even wanting liberation is a desire, but I think we are not going to kind of go down that road. But Ketu is the Moksha Karaka. Okay, so Ketu is not here in this list. Now, we did some time ago Digbala planetary planets that are in planetary Digbala. And we saw this chakra. I'm just reminding you, this is again the 8 directions. So Ashtamurti Shiva again gets mapped into the Kaal chakra as well. So again, I'm not going to go too much into the Kaal chakra because this is not it's not to be, the focus is not the Kaal chakra, but it is a very important aspect of the Ashtamurti Shiva. But the main thing for me to bring about the concept of Ashtamurti Shiva is basically it gets mapped into the planets, and the planets and the grahas are nothing but the manifestation of, through the gunas and through the pancha mahabhutas, which is nothing but the creation, the 5 great elements. Now, the Atmakaraka, of course, is the most important graha in your chart, okay, along with and we are not now, see, this is where it gets a little bit complicated because I don't want to focus right now on the Atmakaraka. I want to actually just introduce for the moment so that you can at least do your own research much more on it. But the Atmakaraka is distinctly different from the planet which is your Lagna Lord or the Arud Lagna Lord or the Bhava Lagna. It's distinctly different. Okay, the Atmakaraka has nothing to do with your Lagna or any of that. Atmakaraka lies completely on his own. And as per Parashara in his chapter on the Kattvas, he often talks about that he is to be regarded as a king of the natives. As in the country, the king is the most famous of all men. The Atmakaraka is the head of all affairs of the country, is entitled to arrest and release men. So just as all the ministers, etc., are favorable, if the king is favorable, in the same way the other Karakas also do not exert malefic influence if the Atmakaraka is favorable. So remember when I said that it's very important for the Lagna and the Lagna Lord to be strong. Similarly, the Atmakaraka, if he is strong and favorable, then even a badly placed Lagna Lord, it's able to manage. So this is a very important concept. And again, you have to really study it very closely, and also when we talk of the Atmakaraka, we cannot just see it in the Rashi chart. We have to bring it into the D9 chart, okay? Because the D9, remember, is a Bhagyamsha. It is your, it's your destiny. Everything about the destiny will come from the Navāṃśa chart, okay? So that is why it is really important to see the Atmakaraka in the Rashi as well as in the Navāṃśa chart. as we go much more in advanced, I mean, Gemini Sutras in, when, which I'm doing at the moment, it gets very, very complicated because Gemini is like even 50 steps ahead of Parashara Rishi. He talks about bringing the Atmakaraka in various other charts, bringing it back into reading the whole chart from the Atmakaraka in Rashi, Navāṃśa, in various other charts. So, but this is beyond our purview. Let's just first understand between the Atmakaraka in the Rashi as well as in the Navāṃśa. That will be our big focus, for the rest of the year. And I would like you to see as many charts as possible and to ponder over what is the significance of it. Yeah. Anybody, any questions so far?
Yes.
Yeah, go on.
The Atmakaraka indicates what our soul wants. And we learned that in the D9 chart, the second house also shows us what our soul wants, right? So how do I decide what the soul wants then?
Okay. The Atmakaraka is not what the soul wants. The Atmakaraka is the key to where your maximum karma lies. Okay. Remember, I said that we began this thing with the Ashtamurti Shiva, which is akin to, having a white light, and it splits up into all the 7 to 8 different colors, right? Those colors are nothing but all the planets in the manifestation of Shiva in your, through the agency of the karmas that you bring this lifetime. And that can be seen through all the 8 planets. So each of these 8 planets signifies something or the other. Okay. And the Atmakaraka signifies your soul, where your maximum karma lies. It's like the 100 or 1,000 blazing suns. That's what the Atmakaraka is about, okay? That's where the whole focus of life is. Now, there may be other focus, but of course, that's where the second from the D9 is where your big karma lies. But of course, ultimately, that is what I'm trying to say, that, you have to somehow come to a point where in understanding, looking at your chart and understanding, well, that's the one of the houses, that's that sign from second from Navāṃśa Lagna is where your karma focus is going to be. But maybe you have a planet there, maybe you don't, and maybe you have your own Atmakaraka there, or you have some other Charakaraka there, which you owed somebody from past lifetime. So that will take focus. So you see, it is much, much more intricate. It is like peeling the layers of an onion. The more you go in deep, the more you fine tune the whole process, right? So it is not as simple. It's not as two-dimensional. It's not as black and white as, oh, she said, the second from Navāṃśa Lagna is our karma, and that's it. It doesn't end there. What kind of karma, does that answer your question?
Yeah, kind of. Thank you.
Maybe we will see more charts and then we will understand, yeah? Because
Okay.
see, the Atmakaraka is just one thing. Remember, we have all the other 8 CharaKarakas, which signify each of the different planets, okay? Yeah?
Mhm.
So let's just proceed. Let me just say, is everybody familiar with how to figure out and how to calculate the Atmakaraka?
Yes, it's like the highest, the planet with the highest degrees.
Yes.
There it stands there actually.
Yeah, ignoring, sorry, the planet with the highest degree, you ignore all the signs and you take only the degrees including Rahu, but with Rahu, because it's retrograde, you take it, subtract 30 degrees from Rahu. And the figure you arrive at include that in the degrees, but that is only for Rahu. You do that because it is going backwards. It's by naturally going retrograde. Yeah. So that is literally, so it's very, very easy, very simple. So right now, I'm not going to, like I said, focus on the calculation of it, but I want you guys to do this exercise, at least get to know what your Atmakaraka is, what your Amatyakaraka is, which is the graha which is lower in degrees after the Atmakaraka. Now, if they are the same degree, we've got a tie, and there are other some set of rules that follow, but again, I'm not going to we won't go into that just yet. Okay, suffice to just get familiar with the key concept of Atmakaraka and the Amatyakaraka. Okay, so proceeding, this is from one of the, I think it's chapter 33 of Parashara. He talks about the Karakamsha. Now, Atmakaraka in the Navāṃśa chart is nothing but Karakamsha. It's as simple as that, okay? So the same planet in a Rashi chart is Atmakaraka, and that planet, you take it and view it through the lens or in the D9 and see what it is doing, where it is placed, whether it is Vargottama, whether it is in, which sign it is in, then you get, and it's called Karakamsha. Now, we also have various rules about reading the chart from Karakamsha, okay? Now, this is what I said. This is when it gets really complicated, but you will get a lot out of this. I mean, just stay with me, because really, like I said, it is not simple, but it is not very difficult either. And it is quite a meditation to study more. And so you will find as you go along that it becomes like quite an obsession. Knowledge can be quite obsessive and quite illuminating as well, because you get to know even about yourself. You get to know, it's like that, so yeah, anyway, let's carry on. So here we see, what is he talking about? Oh, Brahmin as laid down by Brahma. This is the shloka here. I now tell you the effects of Karakamsha identical with Mesha, etc. Karakamsha in the Navāṃśa is the Navāṃśa occupied by the Atmakaraka graha, which I already mentioned. Now, Karakamsha in various rashis is if Atmakaraka happens to be in Mesh Navāṃśa. Now, that is how you talk. You always say whichever planet, and then you say the minute we mention, like it is in Meena Navāṃśa or whatever Navāṃśa, Aries Navāṃśa, it by default, the minute we say Navāṃśa, by default, it's understood that we are referring to the Mesh Rashi or the Aries Rashi, or whichever we are mentioning in the Navāṃśa chart. So that needs to be very clear. That is the correct terminology, okay? So for example, if the Atmakaraka happens to be in Mesh Navāṃśa, there will be nuisance from rats and cats at all times. And a malefic joining will further increase the nuisance. Now, please, guys, do not take this lightly, okay? It is not, you may think like, oh, this is so insignificant, like cats and rats, and why? And it really does work, okay? Now, I can tell you straight away, I'll give you my example, okay? Should the Atmakarak be in Mithun Navāṃśa, which is Gemini Navāṃśa, the native will be afflicted by itch, etc. Now, Gemini Rishi has further elucidated this, and he has said that basically Mithun Navāṃśa means they will be when he talks about itch, he literally means like skin problems or itchiness or skin issues. I've got an extremely sensitive skin, and I have been through quite a few over the years problems with the skin. So I it's only like after I contemplated quite a bit on this that it struck me that this is really true. Okay, so similarly, we see he's given all the 12 signs, all the 12 rashis. If the Atmakaraka be in Karka Navāṃśa, there will be fear from water. If Atmakaraka happens to be in Simha Navāṃśa, fear will be from tiger, etc. Now, obviously, he means like big cat families, okay? If Atmakaraka happens to be in Kanya Navāṃśa, that is Virgo, itch, corpulence. When we talk about corpulence and fire, fire can often mean like, it's like, maybe you were playing with firecrackers and you burnt your hand or something. Corpulence may be that you may feel that you're putting on weight and you can't get it off easily. Again, similar to the Gemini Navāṃśa, the Virgo Navāṃśa has a similar skin issue. Perhaps because both the rulers, Gemini and Virgo, are Mercury, and Mercury is nothing but rules the skin, guys. Okay, remember that? So that is so those things, these things will cause trouble. Okay, any questions so far? Hello? Yeah. Okay, we will see loads of examples, so don't worry, okay? Now, if Atmakaraka is in Tula Navāṃśa, that is Libra, he will make one a trader and skillful in making robes and etc. So trader means somebody who's at the marketplace trading and that kind of merchandising and things like that. Vrishchik Navāṃśa, Scorpio, holding Atmakaraka will bring troubles from snakes and also affliction to mother's breasts. Now, we need to kind of explore that, research that much more. Trouble from snakes, it would be also could be from some kind of, reptilia and things like that. So again, insects and that whole thing, because it's not just a specific like snakes, it could also be water snakes. It could be any number of creatures which are akin to snakes, okay? There will be falls from height and conveyances if it is Dhanu Navāṃśa, that is occupied by Atmakaraka. Dhanu is Sagittarius, Makar is Capricorn Navāṃśa. In this respect denotes gains from water dwelling beings and conch, pearls, corals, etc., which is very beautiful. If it is Kumbha Navāṃśa, that is Aquarius holding Atmakaraka, the native will construct tanks, etc. Remember the symbol of Kumbha, Aquarius. It's the pitcher of water, holding water, and a man, kind of taking the pitcher and getting the water out. And basically, it signifies the water of knowledge. And often you may find that if you have moon or sun in Aquarius or rising sign in Aquarius, these people will really benefit if they have like a nice copper or a silver, a sort of like little vessel of water by their bedside and things like that. Because any kumbhaka is nothing but like a water pitcher, so these things are literally, it will really be very beneficial for them. Meen Navāṃśa, that is Pisces Navāṃśa, the Atmakaraka will grant final emancipation. Okay, now again, when they talk about final emancipation, you have to take it with a pinch of salt. It perhaps maybe also can mean if you have malefics there, then maybe we would take it with that, again, with a pinch of salt. It depends on many many factors. Okay, we have also own Gemini has given very clear dictums and sutras to do with who will get liberation, who will get moksha this lifetime, and things like that. So again, that's kind of for the advanced learning, but this is what Parashara is saying.
Excuse
The,
me.
yeah.
That's I'm not a native English speaker, so final emancipation means moksha.
Yes, final emancipation doesn't mean death. Okay. Um,
Yeah, I like emancipation is like for me it's like yeah I like feminism, like you are emancipated, you are equal to something. So I didn't know.
final emancipation is nothing but moksha, which is liberation from the cycle of life and death. So this will be your last birth. You will not come back to this.
Wow, because mine is there, and I
Oh,
thought
who
because
is this?
because it's Ingrid.
Ah, Ingrid.
Because it's like in the sixth house, so I was very concerned about that. It's
Okay.
Pisces, but in the sixth house.
In Meena, yeah?
Yeah.
Beautiful. But again, please, guys. Okay,
It
one
should be
again,
like opposite. Should be like opposite.
okay, one thing doesn't make up a story. Okay, so don't just it's very fortunate to have that, but you have to also see whether it is malefic, whether 12th from there are because the planets in the 12th house, which is called the Ishta Devata, or if you have no planets in the 12th house from your Karakamsha, if you have, let's say, the Lord, then you have to take. If again, the Lord will have a say in your final destination. So there are many things. So Ingrid, if you activate your Ishta Devata, that is, when you're ready to go. But making it's always nice to have the support of the Ishta Devata, that is your special deity who is 12th from the Karakamsha. If it is a planet, then it's the planet. It's kind of a little bit complicated to arrive at the Ishta Devata, but it's not so straightforward, but it is well worth doing the exercise. Okay.
Okay, I have to look at this. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but I was very concerned because it's in the sixth house. So, but now I'm happy.
Is it in the 6,000
In
in
Navāṃśa.
sorry, in Navamsha or
Yeah,
in
Navāṃśa, yes.
okay. Yeah, I think that can be a little bit problematic from health point of view and things like that.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So we come to the last one. The drishti of a benefic will remove the evils, while that of a malefic will cause no good. Okay. So obviously, like I said, that is absolutely important. You have to see what evil planets are, aspecting the Karakamsha and things like that. Okay. So let's again. I mentioned about the Ishta Devata a while ago. We will do some exercises, and I would encourage you to do more and more of figuring out what is your Rashi, what planets you have 12 from the Karakamsha, and that will give your Ishta Devata. Again, there is another interesting concept, Palan Devata. Now, this is again, like I said, it's a little bit complicated, but this is for sixth house. If your planets there, or the Lord, then you have to take from the Amatya Karaka in your Navāṃśa chart. Okay. So that will give you the Palan Devata. Palan Devata is somebody who is there to feed you, who's your protector, who's going to feed you, who's going to who's going to ensure that you are able to earn and live safely and soundly on this planet while you're alive. Okay, so that's a very positive. It's good to activate this planet, absolutely. See what it is doing in your Rashi chart. So I would like you to guys to do more than the Ishta Devata exercise. The Palana Devata exercise is very important. Okay. Okay. Now these are. Let's go straight to the examples. Marie Curie. We all know about Marie Curie, right? She was. I saw her film recently. The whole. I forget the title of the film, but it was obviously about her life and how she worked closely with her husband Pierre, and she had problems with um, y- extraction of radium and polonium. Sorry, and so feel free to unmute yourselves. Okay. So now, guys, before we go, I want to highlight one thing. One sec. Yeah, this particular, let's just cover this dictum and then we go straight to examples, okay? Here, Parashara is mentioning that it's basically he's giving a few rules. The rules are many, many. This whole chapter is full of very intricate rules and things like that. But I have picked out a few just for, because I thought they were a little bit simpler, and then we'll go to the examples because I think I understand it's a lot to cover, um, and I don't want to confuse you guys by bombarding you with so many, many rules. Um, but here he talks about, O Brahmin, if there be only benefics in Karakamsha and the Navāṃśa Lagna receives a drishti, that is an aspect from a benefic, the native will undoubtedly become a king. Now, obviously, the king means like a good Raj Yoga, akin to a king. Should the Kendras and Konas, that is the angular houses and Konas, the trine houses from Karakamsha, be occupied by benefics devoid of malefic association, the native will be endowed with wealth and learning. Fantastic. And the combination of benefic and malefic influence will, in this context, yield mixed results. If the Now, please ignore this because we haven't done the upagrahas, and this again is a kind of let's not go there because, like I said, upagrahas are we haven't yet touched upon them. If the Atmakaraka is in the divisions of Chandra, Mangal, or Shukra, the native will go to others' wives. Otherwise, the contrary will prevail, will give a house of grass. Now, that's another, like I said, it goes on and on and on, but I've just highlighted the pink and the yellow. Essentially, we also see fourth from the Karakamsha, what kind of property you will live in. Okay. Now, um, just note that down, just have it at the back of your mind, because if you have planets fourth from the Karakamsha, let's say you have Jupiter there, okay, then maybe you'll end up making like a nice log cabin, because remember, the material for Jupiter is wood. The material for, let's say, Saturn and Rahu would be like stone, stone. So it'll be like limestone. So that's quite nice to have in a house of limestone or sandstone. And if it is Mercury, that's why he's mentioning grass. I think it's been a bit of a little bit of a troublesome picking up. A typo error here, but anyway, so if it is like, let's say, made of if it's Mercury, then we have to find what kind of materials of Mercury. If it is the sun, then it'll be like a very like sunny house, like it'll have like many outlets where the sun is streaming in and things like that. Sun can also depending on the material of the sun, it can give you can you may invariably land up making a house of that kind. If it is, let's say, what do you call? Ooh, what are the planets? Oh, yes, if it is, let's say, moon, then perhaps you may want to live near the sea or a water body, or even better still, you may live in a houseboat, mooring. By the coast somewhere, or you may have so much of glass, your whole house would be like full of mirrors and glass and big bay windows, with lots of nice light coming in, so yeah, so Chandra can give you all that, lot of glass and things like that. So that is how we figure out the fourth from Karakamsha. Okay, so that's a very important point. Now, the effects of fifth from Karakamsha. If Rahu and Mangal are in the fifth from Karakamsha, one will suffer from pulmonary consumption. More so if Chandra gives them a drishti, that is, if Moon is giving them a aspect. The aspect of Mars, Mangal on the fifth from Karakamsha will bring boils, ulcers, Ketu's drishti. Fifth from Karakamsha will cause dysentery and other diseases caused by impure water. If Rahu and Gulik, again, please ignore Gulik, we haven't covered it yet. Rahu and Gulik happen to be in the fifth from Karakamsha, there will be fear from mean people and poison. Now, I have highlighted that because if we see Marie Curie's chart, okay, guys, you can unmute yourselves, okay? Where is her, what's her Atmakaraka? Can somebody tell me?
Very hard to read. Ah, okay. The moon.
Yeah, the moon. Now, this is in the Rashi chart. If we take it into the Navāṃśa chart, okay, the moon is, where is the moon? Can somebody?
Yeah, the moon is in
Taurus.
the eighth house. Yeah?
Taurus.
Yeah, it's in Taurus. Absolutely. And it is exalted. And it is in the eighth house. That's correct, Tuksana. And so you see, but it is exalted. It's beautiful moon. But yet she went through such deep research. She was obsessive. In fact, in the film, I remember, where she ordered these big chunks and chunks of stone to extract radium, and her hands went blank and she was coughing, and her husband died, obviously he died in an accident, but basically she herself along with her husband both were unwell, they were coughing, and so there was poisoning, and there was all this radium, poisoning and things like that. And for years she did her whole grounded by hand and through little machines and little, like, sticks and things like that. So you see all of that. If you see fifth from her Karakamsha, the moon, if you see fifth from there, it is Mars and Rahu. Remember what Parashara talks about that, sorry. Yeah, here. He talks about it. Remember that he says there will be poisoning and things like that, will be fear from mean people and poison. So she had a lot of antagonistic, scientific community who would not accept her. Only it was only much later, that they came to accept her. And of course, one will suffer from pulmonary consumption. She did have those problems, by the way, whole host of breathing issues and things like that brought about by the poisoning of radium and polonium in extractions. So you see, that did happen. Yeah. But you see, there's a lot of benefic stuff from her moon. Opposite her moon is Jupiter and Mercury, which is very positive. Yeah. And she's got an exalted sun as Ishta Devata. So she obviously was very, very driven, very, there was some kind of like a, you could well say there was a huge guardian angel, you know, there was Lord Rama, if we can, you know, kind of translate it in those terms, guiding her. And so she was absolutely driven. Yeah. Does anyone else have anything else to say? What about her abilities? What about, you know?
Yeah, I have read a story about her. Actually, she had really, she was so much into learning and researches and so on, and
Yeah.
she did very well. And also there were so many obstructions
Yeah.
for her. She had to leave the house and so on. And we can see in D9 Jupiter and Mercury together in the second house, but and it is in Scorpio, right? And
Yeah.
as far as I know, actually her family supported her a lot. And her family, although they were not quite they were pretty well off, but not too rich. They still supported her classes, and they sent her to different countries so that she could actually study the things there. That's
Yeah.
what I remember reading about her.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And also Jupiter Mercury is a Guru Sisha yoga.
Absolutely.
So this
100%.
is actually, you know, is her wealth in a kind of sense, her knowledge. And
Yes.
so is, you know, because he's in the house of wealth as well. In 18 Scorpio, so in the also the ability to go into research.
Yes, indeed.
Because
But I would also rectify this chart a little bit. I'm not sure because you see,
mm-hmm.
the moon in the eighth house is a problem. You know, Karakamsha in the eighth house poses as a big issue. Now, it could well be that there is no dosha for Maranasthana dosha for Libra and for Sagittarius, but the trouble is that the sun, you see, now this is another little thing that we
And
have to, if
could
you have,
be, Sonal, could be that the moon is helped by the aspect of Jupiter.
yeah, absolutely. But here there is, see, her husband died before her, you see. If you have sun in Lagna, then you outlive your husband because you see the Navāṃśa Lagna is you know.
Mm.
And the seventh house, if you have a son, then it's your husband or your spouse. So your spouse is very regal, very elevated, very royal, and he will outlive you. So you see, and obviously Pierre was killed in a street accident, and after he passed, she succeeded him and she got to be the chair professor at Sorbonne. So basically, her husband passed away. So this chart doesn't make sense. So you
Mm.
see, that is how I would kind of correct it, that this is not quite right. You know, perhaps moving it will also then make it have Jupiter and Mercury in Lagna. Maybe she was a Scorpio Lagna, deep research. Does that
Mm.
suit much
Mm.
more?
Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
guys, come on.
We
Mm.
have studied her chart together with my teacher, and actually I have got her chart. I will check it actually. I'll
Yes,
let you know.
absolutely. Yes, I would like to because Jupiter, Mercury in Lagna, Navāṃśa Lagna suits much more, you see. But that is
Yep.
one key way of rectifying charts, you know. I've just put it because I just had a time and I'm not even sure about the validity of this time here. But anyway, let's move to yes, now this is Paramahansa Yogananda. We all know about the autobiography of a yogi, right?
Yep.
Yes. Now, his chart, I think, should be okay. Anybody wants to have a go, please? I've made the arrows, I've made it very simple. Any takers? So, okay, guys, here it is. What's the Lagna? The Rashi is Leo, right? With moon in Leo. So you see, every great spiritual leader, a spiritual saint, will always have moon in Lagna. That is one of the hallmarks of a great saint, that they will always have moon in Lagna. So that is absolutely fine. Now, the other thing is his ATmakaraka is Venus, okay? As you can see, the Venus is in Digbal in the fourth house, very strong Venus, and an absolutely beautiful Venus. So, and obviously, the whole idea of Venus in Digbal is there's there's a great sense of, because it's in the fourth house. The fourth house is all about happiness, all about your fundamental joy and things like that, what makes you truly in bliss. Forget about money, forget about everything. It's all about your internal sense of bliss. And if you read his book, he never believed in astrology or any of that. It's an absolute classic, and absolutely fantastic. And here, if you see that he got much more sort of adulation in America rather than within India. So, which is quite obvious, because the Lord of the fourth house, the Atmesha, which is Venus's lord of Venus, is Ketu and Ketu and Mars, and that is in the eighth house and the third house. So you see, it's eighth house. If the fourth lord is in the eighth house, often you will find that these people are better off being abroad. They will have tons of stuff abroad. They will have recognition abroad. They will have, even if you think in mundane terms, like properties, because fourth house is also signifies like how many properties and what kind of properties. Then often fourth lord in the eighth house will actually give you properties abroad. Okay, so that is quite obvious in his chart. But anyway, coming back to his Karakamsha, if you see, this is the Venus in the Rashi. His Karakamsha is here with Jupiter in Kumbha, in Aquarius. That is a beautiful, absolutely beautiful combination of Venus and Jupiter, and it's in the 10th house from Navāṃśa Lagna. So, of course, his whole um, focus was on this Mars, on his, because this is what in the seventh house, it's all about his teachings and learnings and, his book and things like that. So as you can see, and Kumbha, the Rashi Kumbha, remember what we said about Kumbha, water tanks and, building, but it's metaphorical, because ultimately it is a water of knowledge. Aquarius is all about the knowledge, the Kumbha, the water pitcher, and pouring waters of knowledge. So you see, that's what he did, all the spiritual knowledge, and it's with a fantastic benefit, Jupiter. Yeah.
Can I add something, Sodal?
Yeah, go on.
Okay, so his Jupiter is in Aquarius and Kumbha, as you say, and I'm talking about the Navāṃśa chart now. And besides, it signifies that he did the charity, so he was very, very charitable as well. It's a well-known fact about him. Huh?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can't get a better Jupiter, a more benefic with the Karakamsha than Jupiter himself, and very strong, third from the moon, Mercury, very strong abilities. There's a protection. Mars and Sun are his big protectors, and his Ishta is Ketu, absolutely. And Ketu in, so of course he was granted for sure, liberation is assured, because if you have 12th from your Karakamsha. If you have Ketu, that's like, having Pisces there. That's very, very positive, extremely positive. So, of course, he was, iconic in terms of sharing his spiritual knowledge to the whole Western world. And that's what he did. And you see Jupiter really and with the sun he went out of his way to teach, and those were his protection that came. Mars, the Agni, the writing ability, that gives also your abilities, you see. Yeah, can somebody switch off? There's all kinds of noise coming. Oops. Okay.
From the Chandra Lagna, we can see Venus and Jupiter in the 11th house. No?
In the Karakamsha, from
In the Navāṃśa chart, sorry. In the Navāṃśa chart, if we take the Chandras, the Chandra Lagna, Venus and Jupiter in Kumbha are in the 11th house.
yes.
He's like, well, he shared his knowledge with the masses.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Two benefics 11, that's what he was born for, you see. That's a huge blessing again. From the Chandra Lagna, from the Karakamsha, you have 11th house is what you're born for. So Venus, Jupiter, that is what he was born. His soul was born for this reason, to spread and be the spiritual leader that he was. Absolutely. Well spotted. Who's this? Victoria?
Yeah, it was me, Victoria.
Yeah, okay. Ah, okay. You haven't come here before, have you?
No, it's my first time. I'm from Argentina, and I found the Facebook group last week. So
Okay. Yeah, this is very well spotted. Yeah, absolutely. So check up from your Karakamsha if you have benefics 11th from there. Even if it is malefics, they will give you your soul purpose, what you are. You have to complete before you exit the planet. Yeah.
yeah. What about if there's Ketu in the 11th house?
Ketu in the 11th.
Yeah. What does that mean?
Well, I think Ketu in the 11th is will give you a lot of spiritual abilities, and his schooling and stuff like that. I think he did set up a lot of, I don't know too much about him, but feel free to put it up. I love this book of his, but absolutely, I think he was instrumental in setting up a lot of, little mutts and things like that all over the world. So that Ketu is highly significant from that point of view. Extremely significant. And bear in mind the ATmakaraka. And remember, I told you the wealth that is generated from the 10th house is all from the Navāṃśa Lagna. 10th house is absolutely fantastic if you have benefics there, and he's got the Atmakaraka, so his soul was very much connected to making kind of generate wealth. Now we are not talking about wealth in terms of like money per se, because remember this is the Karakamsha there, or Atmakaraka there. So often with Atmakaraka we have to look beyond just the material stuff. Here we are talking of the soul, fundamental soul karma and the soul purpose for this lifetime. So obviously, he had to leave a legacy behind, because both of them are benefics in terms of, and the wealth of the spiritual wealth was what is the key for him. Any questions so far?
As for me, no questions. I'd like to add something about actually him. It is well known that when he died, his body didn't show any signs of decay
Yeah.
for 3 weeks. Yeah. And yes, and also in D1, that Saturn Drishti on the 8th house probably could be the reason why he died at the age of 59. Yeah. So, and besides that, Jupiter Mars association or conjunction, as we call it, in the 8th. So there are 2 malefics then. One from Saturn Drishti, and Jupiter is combined with Mars in the 8th house. So that's actually how we studied his chart. I have just remembered that.
Sorry, you're talking of the Navāṃśa
No,
or?
no, D1.
Yeah, that's D1. Yeah, 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 absolutely. I mean, that Mars is very, it's actually quite a blessing to have the fourth lord in the eighth house with Jupiter, you know, because obviously his fortune, and what, I mean, I'm not talking, when I talk about fortune, I'm not talking in terms of money making wealth generation, but I'm talking more of spiritual wealth here. You know, he established great centers, meditation centers all over the world, and that was obviously, you know, a kind of phenomenal task. The fourth lord in the eighth house, he had to step outside the boundaries of his own home country, you know. If the fourth lord was in the fifth or somewhere else, you know, it's much nicer, obviously much more comfortable. But because it's in the eighth house, you know, he had to step out.
Yeah, sure. And Saturn is the Maruka here, isn't it?
uh, oh, you mean being in the second house?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a little bit rough there, but it also gives him a great, well, I think he's a saint. I mean, he was a yogi. So there's no, I would say if it was a chart of not a yogi, then this is a Srimanta yoga. Srimanta yoga is when the seventh lord is in the second house. That's a Srimanta yoga. That's a fantastic yoga. That's a wealth generating yoga, but he's obviously a yogi. There is no way he would have, but it still worked in terms of he generated uh, wealth through his books and his classic and his centers all over the world. So you see,
Yeah, sure.
so yeah. Anyway, shall we see one more chart and then we go?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Shall we see Queen Victoria?
Okay.
Okay, everybody familiar with her? As in, everybody knows her, right?
Yeah, right.
Yes. I mean, she reigned the for almost 64 years. I mean, an iconic woman. I mean, look at her, very Taurus looking. Now, again, I think there is a little bit of her, the Navāṃśa may have to be corrected. I've got Aries here. I'm not exactly sure because it could well be Taurus, Vargotama, Lagna. So I'm more inclined to use the Vargotama Lagna rather than this. I don't know why I have this, but I'm going to rectify that. But anyway, her, I think it is Vargotama Lagna with Venus there, with Sun and Moon being in the 12th house, right? Now, her, what's her Atmakaraka? Her Atmakaraka is Mars. And bear in mind that Mars and Jupiter are in a parivartana. Has everybody seen this? Are you guys familiar with her chart? I mean, usually we say that the sun moon is a dire, it's an Amavasya yoga, yeah? Amavasya, any divisional chart where there is sun and moon it's absolute amavasya, absolute darkness. You're going to be shrouded in darkness. But here, she has got the moon exalted. That, and it's in Lagna. So, that takes away the sting of that amavasya. Plus, in the Navāṃśa chart as well. I mean, she was married to Albert for a long time, and after he passed away, she went into absolute. Was it her who she went into a complete depression? So coming back, so I think, and here the sun is exalted. So again, the sting of that sun and moon together in the Navāṃśa as well is not so bad, and it's a chara rashi. Bear in mind, if you have a sun moon conjunction, depending on the rashi, it is in the Navāṃśa. If it is in the fixed signs, it's Kali is your way out. Okay, Kali, goddess Kali. Kali mantra will work. You need to do a Kali sadhana because it's very difficult. Sun moon conjunctions have a very difficult, it's a Gandanta yoga. They have a very difficult karma associated with relationship. We are talking of Navāṃśa here, so I'm talking about the sun moon there. And if you have it in chara rashi, that is in movable signs like Aries and Capricorn or Cancer, then it's not so bad because then you are able to overcome it this lifetime. And if it is in dual signs, in Dvishwa Bhava, then it'll be like two-pronged. And then your remedy is Lord Vishnu, Kleem Vishnave Namaha, or whichever mantra, Om Vishnave Namaha. Those are Krishna and Vishnu mantras will help you to overcome them. Okay. So that is the dictum which I have learned from my tradition. Now, coming back, yes?
How do I recognize in a chart if the moon is in the stage of becoming full or if it's becoming, how do I call it? Not full moon.
Full moon is not Amavasya.
No, I mean, if moon and sun is opposite, that means it's full, you are born on full moon.
Yeah, that's called Purnami, Purna Tithi, yeah? Purnima Tithi.
And if sun and moon is in one house, then it's in conjunction, then how do you call it in English?
Amavasya. In English, it's the new moon. But the new moon is actually no moon, because when you look up in the night sky, when it is Amavasya, that is, the moon is within 12 degrees of the sun. So literally, technically, the moon is combusted. So if you look up in the night sky, there is no moon that night.
Yeah.
It's absolutely.
How do I know, like, if it's somewhere in between those two stages, how do I know in which direction it is going?
Well, I think you can see from the degrees here. The moon has gone past the sun, but there's still 2 degrees within themselves.
No, how do I know, like, if it's going to be full moon or new moon? Like, if it's in between those two stages. Like, how do I know if this person is born between new moon going to full moon, or if the person is born from full moon going to new moon?
I think your tithi will give, you mean you're talking of a waxing cycle and the waning cycle. You're talking of Krishna Paksh. Are you talking of Shukla Paksh and Krishna Paksh?
Yes, like waxing.
Yeah, but this is obvious that once the moon has gone beyond, it's after the sun. That is, the sun is before, it's 10 degrees. The moon has already passed, conjoined the sun and has gone beyond it. So it is Krishna Paksh, yeah? Sorry, it's Shukla Paksh. So you see, had the moon been, let's say, 9 degrees, or had it been like 5 degrees, then it was still coming close to the sun and it hadn't conjoined the sun. So basically, that is in the last cycle, which is the Krishna Paksh, which is the waning cycle of the moon. And once it is conjoined the sun and it's left the sun behind and it's moving forward, so then it's a new moon. It's like coming out of the darkness. But again, within 12 degrees either side, it's a problem, because it's still under the rays of the sun. The whole tithi is literally 12 degrees, so it's going to be a problem.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, but you can check into your the software. It will give you all the tithis. But someday, is that Oksana? Yeah.
Ingrid.
Oh, Ingrid. Yeah. But someday we'll have a workshop on panchang. There's lots to know, because each of the phases of the moon is ruled by a particular planet and things like that. So, for example, Amavasya that she was born in, Amavasya Tithi which is what it's called, the new moon or the no moon in my books, is ruled by Rahu, the north node of the moon. And so, just like Rahu devours the luminaries, everything is pitched in darkness. So, in the night sky, when you look up, when it is, no moon or new moon, the moon has lost completely its power. It's absolute pitch dark. So, that is how you say it's Amavasya, yeah? So here you see that it's a problem for her, but yet, because the moon is exalted and, the Lord of, the moon is exalted, and in the Navāṃśa, the sun is exalted. So essentially, the sun and moon, even though they both technically are Amavasya in both the charts, it's still, the sting is not so bad. But for everybody else, and there are other factors too in our chart. I mean, see, there's a beautiful Jupiter, Mars, ATmakaraka exchange and things like that. And very, very strong Mars here, In fact, Mars is in the 11th house, the Mars is 11th house from the Navāṃśa Lagna. That's all to do with profits, and and she made Britain one of the richest countries on the planet, through through all the wealth of the empire. So anyway, I think we need to stop here. Anybody has any questions? But I would rectify this chart. Yes, go on. Hello? Hello? Anybody, any questions?
No, thank you, Sonal. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome, Margarita. So please feel free to put up some charts regarding especially and some of the stuff we covered. And please, guys, remain focused, as in terms of what we have studied in relevance to that, put up, put up those